It was only for the good of his subjects that he collected taxes from them, just as the sun draws moisture from the earth to give it back 1,000-fold. Kalidas in Raghuvansh. In India, the system of direct taxation, as it is known today, has been in force since ancient times. India's first union budget was introduced by pre-independence Finance Minister James Wilson on 7th of April 1860, and the reason behind it was to meet the losses sustained by the government on account of the military mutiny of 1857. In 1886, an explicit Income Tax Act was passed, which was eventually replaced by the Indian Income Tax Act of 1918. The organizational history of the Income Tax Authority and its various departments commenced in the year 1922 with the introduction of the Income Tax Act 1922, though being somewhat complex. To simplify the complexities, the Income Tax Act 1961 was passed by the Parliament.
As we Indians rejoice in our journey of 75 years of independence, Sansad TV contributes to the said phenomenal journey by dedicating a series titled 75 Years Laws That Shaped India, a special program discussing different laws that have been adopted during these golden years. I'm your host Hemant Batra, back with another episode in that exclusive series. Today we are discussing the Income Tax Act 1961. To talk about this groundbreaking legislation, we have a very learned expert panel with us. Joining us are Kamlesh Varshney, an accomplished Indian Revenue Service officer. He's MBA from IIM Lucknow and has also obtained his degree in law. He is currently Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Finance. Welcome, Kamlesh ji.
Thank you.
We also have with us a very renowned taxation expert, Jain. A brilliant chartered accountant with law degree, he has also been the president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and has been regularly advising the government of India on issues surrounding taxation and more. Welcome, Vedji. Welcome to the studio, both of you. So let's start the discussion for today. Let me come to you first, Kamlesh ji. Kamlesh ji, Article 265 of the Constitution of India mandates that no tax shall be levied or collected except by the authority of law, which is conferred on the Income Tax Act 1961, which we are discussing today, where it is provided that tax can be levied and collected in a prescribed manner. And then, we have entry 82 of the Union List in 7th schedule, which empowers the Parliament or let's say the central government to tax non-agricultural income. So that's my question. That why the agricultural income was left out of the purview of income tax, and that too by a constitutional mandate, and which, to my understanding, continues even today without any exceptions, boundaries, or limitations. And this question I'm asking more so because, we have two sets of farmers. One, yes, poor farmers, and then there are very wealthy agriculturist landlords. They also are obviously exempted under this set of exemptions. So, can you share your views on the same?
Thank you, Hemant ji. I think this is a very important question, particularly must be in the mind of all our listeners. So, see, you referred to 7th schedule of the Constitution. So, 7th schedule of the Constitution deal with the allocation of work between state government and union government. So, in the union list, as you correctly said, that entry 82 gives power to Parliament to legislate on income tax, except tax on agriculture income. But it does not mean that they have left it to be untaxed. They have given that power to the state government, which is under the state list. And under the allocation of power between center and state, the power has been given to state government to levy taxes on agriculture income. Now, there is a legacy behind it. If you see that people, when Constitution Assembly was deliberating on this subject, there was a legacy in the form of 1935 Act. But that legacy alone is not the reason behind this bifurcation. In fact, the president of the Constitution Assembly at that point of time had constituted an expert committee for finance matters. And one of the items under the purview of that expert committee was to suggest whether this power should be given to the center or to the state. Now, the committee did recognize the fact that we need uniformity, and for the uniformity purpose, probably it is better to give it to the center because center is going to administer Income Tax Act. Right. However, at the same time, it also recognized the special situation with respect to agriculture, because agriculture was a state subject, and then there was a view that the responsibility should remain with the state government, and then there are some local factors which needs to be factored in while taxing agriculture income. Now, because of that reason, the committee suggested that it should remain in the, Constitution was formed for the first time. When I say remain means because 1935 Act had it under the state list. Right. So they said that it should go to the state list. And that is, then it was, discussed in the Constitution Assembly. Of course, there were views on both sides. Some eminent experts argued that it should be in the central list. Some argued that it should be in the state list. But then it was decided that it should be in the state list. Right. Now, that position has remained unchanged for the 72 years or more than 72 years of the Constitution. Yes. Because when you see there have been so many amendments in the Constitution, but this has not changed. That means there is political consensus. Right. Now, there is a political consensus that it should remain under the state list. लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि ये अनटैक्स रह गई. आपने उदाहरण दिया कि रिच फार्मर्स हैं, गरीब किसान हैं और अमीर किसान हैं, तो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को पावर है कि वो अमीर किसानों पे टैक्स लगा सकती है, और कुछ स्टेट ने लगाया भी है. ऐसा नहीं है कि बिल्कुल ये अनटैक्स्ड है.
पर उसको किस हेडिंग के तौर पे, मतलब क्या जाना जाता है उस तरह का?
एग्रीकल्चर इनकम टैक्स.
एग्रीकल्चर इनकम टैक्स जाना जाता है.
बिल्कुल, एग्रीकल्चर इनकम टैक्स जाना चाहता है. अच्छा. और एक और मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं कि जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बनाया गया, तो जब ये पावर स्टेट को दी गई, तो एक बहुत ही जनरल प्रोविजन है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अंदर, और कि जिसमें स्टेट सब्जेक्ट पे भी पार्लियामेंट लेजिस्लेट कर सकती है. मैं आर्टिकल 249 और 250 की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, जो कि इमरजेंसी पावर, मतलब इमरजेंसी के दौरान होती है या स्पेशल नेशनल इंपॉर्टेंस के लिए होती है. 252 जो अनुच्छेद है वो साफ कहता है कि अगर 2 या 2 से ज्यादा राज्य मिलकर केंद्र को कहें, पार्लियामेंट को कहें कि ये स्टेट सब्जेक्ट है लेकिन आप इस पे लॉ बना सकते हैं, तो वो लॉ केंद्र बना सकता है, पार्लियामेंट बना सकता है, और वो उन राज्यों पे मान्य होगा, और बाद में कोई दूसरे राज्य भी उसको अडॉप्ट कर सकते हैं. सो व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से इज दैट पार्लियामेंट, द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हैज गिवन इट टू द स्टेट, but there are also provision that if states wants that they are that center is more capable to administer Income Tax Act, there are provision that they can hand it over to the center. But right now it is it is totally up to the wisdom of center that how they want to enact income tax law.
Very well explained. Moving on to you, Vedji. In Manu Smriti, Manu says that king is ultimate. He's the sovereign and he has right to levy and collect tax. And from ancient times, sovereign states, kingdoms have been levying and collecting tax from their subjects. And in context of India, I was reading that the earliest archaeological evidence which was traced with regard to income tax was based on the inscriptions found on Ashoka's pillar in Lumbini. So obviously, income tax has been in existence for ages. Now, coming to the basic question, which I'm sure most of our viewers are interested in knowing, that when are they liable to pay tax? Is it that every earning individual has to file returns, income tax returns, and pay tax?
You have rightly said that taxes are to be paid, and it's one long history in India that taxes are required to be paid on income. But in the income tax is a tax what we call a progressive tax. So considering the fact that there should be an ability to pay, so over a period, threshold limit has been prescribed who is required to pay tax. So it is not every citizen, every individual is required to pay tax. A person whose income exceed, the total income exceed the maximum amount which is not chargeable to tax. And it used to be 2,000, 3,000, 50s, 60s and 70s. And now it is 2,50,000 rupees. So any individual which has a total income exceeding rupees 2,50,000, which is not whether, is required to file return and pay tax. That's a requirement.
Right.
But in addition thereto, there are certain other conditions because the legislature and of course the tax administration want to ensure that all people who are required to pay taxes, they pay taxes. So, but there is an additional obligation that you may not be required to pay tax, but still you are required to file your tax return. So the tax administration knows that you are not required to pay tax. Suppose a case, a person has foreign travel. So if you have incurred an expenditure of more than 2 lakh rupees, then you are required to file return even if your income is less than 2,50,000 rupees, which is not required. You have incurred certain expenditure like electricity. Your expenditure is exceeding rupees 1 lakh per year. Then you are required to file return because the tax administration want to know that from which source this money is coming out and that still you are not required to pay tax. Similarly, if you have transaction in your current account which exceeds rupees 1 crore aggregate of the deposits, saving bank account you have a more than 50 lakh rupees, you are required to do it. If you have turnover in your business which is 60 lakh rupees, exceeding 60 lakh rupees, if you are a professional and your receipts are more than 10 lakh rupees, all these are a category which have been prescribed to ensure that the person may not have the income chargeable to tax but still required.
अब जैसे घर में डोमेस्टिक हेल्प होती है या आपके पर्सनल शॉफर ड्राइवर वगैरह होते हैं, आज की डेट में सैलरीज काफ़ी अच्छी हैं, तो एक ड्राइवर है जिसको लेट्स से 20 या 25 हज़ार सैलरी है, तो उसका अगर हम 12 महीने का लगाएं तो कितना हुआ? 3 लाख हो गया. तो उससे हम कैसे एक्सपेक्ट करेंगे कि वो जाके इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न फाइल करे या खुद कंप्यूटर पे बैठ के या किसी सीए को हायर करे? तो ये प्रैक्टिकल तो इतना लग नहीं रहा मुझे प्रोपोजिशन.
नहीं, देखिए इसके लिए इनकम टैक्स में पूरी व्यवस्था है.
अच्छा,
दोनों को फैसिलिटी है. आपने 25,000 ड्राइवर की सैलरी है और मैं अपने घर पे ड्राइवर रखता हूँ या घर का सर्वेंट रखता हूँ, तो मेरा ऑब्लिगेशन है टीडीएस काटने का.
अच्छा,
एक सैलरी वाला एक ऐसा ऑब्लिगेशन है जिसमें ना बिजनेस की जरूरत है ना किसी को, और हर आदमी को लगता है. कोई भी व्यक्ति किसी भी दूसरे व्यक्ति को सैलरी एम्प्लॉय रखता है और उसकी इनकम इतनी, सैलरी इतनी है जो चार्जेबल टू टैक्स बनती है, जो इस केस में बन जाएगी. तो आज की डेट में हम उनको कहते हैं कि जिनकी इनकम 21,000 रुपये से ज़्यादा किसी को सैलरी दे रहे हैं, 20-21,000 रुपये, तो वो 2,50,000 से थ्रेशोल्ड से क्रॉस कर जाएगी. तो आप एम्प्लॉयर बन गए, वो एम्प्लॉय बन गए, आपको टैक्स काटना चाहिए 192 में और जमा कराना चाहिए.
और मे बी एम्प्लॉयर को ही मदद करनी चाहिए इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न फाइल करने के लिए.
वो फॉर्म 16 जाएगा और वही फॉर्म 16 इज सफिशिएंट फॉर दैट पर्पस. उसके लिए भी इनकम टैक्स में पूरी स्कोप है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. देखिए छूट इनकम टैक्स ने वैसे 5 लाख रुपए तक की इनकम की दी हुई है. 12,500 का रिबेट भी मिलता है अगर आपकी इनकम 5 लाख रुपए तक आती है. ऑब्लिगेशन लेकिन रिटर्न फाइल करने का टीडीएस का इसमें सब में लग जाएगा. देखिए क्या है, एक सभ्य समाज में, सिविलाइज सोसाइटी में टैक्स कंप्लायंस सबसे ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है. और उसके लिए 2 चीज़ें हैं कि सरकार ये नहीं चाहती कि हर व्यक्ति टैक्स दे. सरकार वही चाहती है कि जिससे टैक्स बनता वो टैक्स दे, लेकिन मेरी कंप्लायंस में मदद करने के लिए ये प्रोसीजरल पार्ट उसको पूरा करना जरूरी है. दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट.
सो वेयर वेजी इज लीविंग, आई एम मूविंग ऑन टू यू, कनेक्टिंग द डॉट्स. In income tax, I think the most important constituents are filing of income tax return, and then assessment and perhaps scrutiny if at all required. In today's context, everything is electronic. It is completely faceless, or at least it is moving towards complete faceless regime. Now, do you think that this faceless regime provides adequate safeguards and protection to the aggrieved assessees, and does it also offer the same job satisfaction and accomplishment to the tax officials which it used to in the past?
The faceless assessment is a tax reform which has been initiated by this government, and a lot of benefits are there. For the taxpayer, it's a huge benefit because ease of compliance. I mean, taxpayer does not have to visit income tax office for filing his reply, for attending his scrutiny proceedings. He can file reply from the comfort of his home or office, whatever is convenient.
So it is user-friendly.
It is user-friendly. And for easing compliance for taxpayer, which has been the initiative of this government, that ease of business, ease of compliance, everything must be enforced.
पर जिस केस में वो aggrieved है, for instance.
Right. So now coming to your two questions. So let me, explain from that perspective that it's a huge change, and whenever a new change is introduced, we have to also get feedback and improve upon those changes. It is not necessary that when you implement it the first time you will be 100% correct. You have to, learn from your experience and keep on improving. And the two questions will get answered once we look at the Finance Act 2022, which actually this government did, that it took feedback, and the two questions that you mentioned were very relevant questions, and necessary amendments were made in the Finance Act 2022 so that these two issues are addressed. जैसे आपने कहा कि टैक्स पेयर को अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलनी चाहिए, क्योंकि उसका ग्रीवेंस है कि अगर हमने उसको शो कॉज नोटिस दिया कि भैया मैं आपके केस में ये एडिशन करना चाहता हूं, और टैक्स पेयर चाहता है कि मुझको एक्सप्लेन करवाने का मौका दिया जाए लिखित के अलावा, मतलब बोलने के साथ में मौका दिया जाए, तो उसके अंदर पहले ये था कि जो मुख्य आयकर आयुक्त है वो देखेगा कि ये मौका देना चाहिए या नहीं देना चाहिए. तो अभी जो अमेंडमेंट हो गया है वो ये है कि नहीं, ये उसका अधिकार है, जो भी कहेगा कि मुझको पर्सनल हियरिंग चाहिए तो उसको देनी पड़ेगी थ्रू वर्चुअल कॉन्फ्रेंसेस.
ठीक है.
So that has been addressed.
बहुत अच्छा है. Because it follows principles of natural justice.
Principle of natural justice. Similarly, your second question कि ऑफिसर सेटिस्फाई है कि नहीं कि उसने अच्छा काम किया. तो पहले क्या होता था कि असेसिंग ऑफिसर ने ड्राफ्ट असेसमेंट ऑर्डर तैयार किया, वो जाता था रिव्यू यूनिट के पास में. रिव्यू यूनिट अगर उससे सहमत नहीं थी तो वो एक तीसरी यूनिट के पास में जाता था. तो वहां पर ऐसा लगता था कि शायद असेसिंग ऑफिसर को कि भाई मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं असेसमेंट कर रहा हूं. अब वो प्रोसेस फिर चेंज हो गया है फाइनेंस एक्ट 2022 में, एक्सपीरियंस के फीडबैक के हिसाब से. अब जो नया प्रोसीजर है कि अगर मैं असेसिंग ऑफिसर हूं, मैंने ड्राफ्ट ऑर्डर बनाया, वो रिव्यू यूनिट में जाएगा, रिव्यू यूनिट अपने सजेशन मुझे देगा
और आपके पास ही आएंगे, फिर
मेरे पास ही आएगा. और फिर ये नहीं कि वो सजेशन मुझ पे बाध्य हैं. अगर मैं उनसे सहमत हूं तो उनको इनकॉर्पोरेट कर लूंगा, अगर मैं उससे सहमत नहीं हूं तो मैं बाकायदा रीजनिंग दूंगा अपने इंटरनल नोट में और कहूंगा कि मैं इससे क्यों असहमत हूं. तो इससे जो असेसिंग ऑफिसर का जो पद है, जो होता है कि हाँ भाई ये असेसमेंट मैंने किया है, तो वो जो है तो एक सेंस ऑफ बिलोंगिंग, सो दैट हैज बीन रिस्टोर्ड.
बिल्कुल, बहुत अच्छा आपने समझाया है इस चीज को. वेल, इट इज टाइम टू टेक अ वेरी शॉर्ट ब्रेक. वी विल सी यू in a little while on the other side of the break. Welcome back after the break. You're watching our special show on selective landmark laws legislated during our journey of 75 years of independence. Today we are discussing a significant law, the Income Tax Act. One of the largest sources of revenue generating departments for the central government has been the income tax department. Over a period of 40 years, there has been a massive increment in the collection of taxes by the department. The Central Board of Direct Taxes has reported having collected about rupees 14.09 lakh crore for the financial year 2021-2022. Well, we will continue our discussion with our panelists, but before that, let us have a glimpse at this law's parliament journey.
The Income Tax Bill 1961 was introduced by the then Finance Minister Morarji Desai. It was introduced in Lok Sabha on April 24, 1961. Bill was debated and then passed in Lok Sabha on August 28, 1961. It was passed in Rajya Sabha on September 4, 1961. It received the assent of the President on September 13, 1961. Act came into effect on April 1, 1962. Let us see the legislative journey of this Act.
Sir, On behalf of Shri Morarji Desai, I beg to move for leave to introduce the bill to consolidate and amend the law relating to income tax and super tax.
The word property occurring in clauses 11 to 13 has been redefined to include a business undertaking. It has also been provided that the exemption from tax in respect of the income of a charitable trust.
The bill as it emerged from the select committee has become much more simpler than the act as it exists today. My point is only this. Payment of tax according to assessment is a duty. If a person does not pay, it is a breach of duty.
Let's move on with our discussion. Vedji, let me come to you on this side of the break. The hardest thing to understand in this world is income tax. I'm not saying this. It has been said on record by Albert Einstein. And even back home, if we were to talk about two of our great jurists, the great Nani Palkiwala and the great Soli Sorabji, they have also in their own words labeled Income Tax Act as a complex set of law. But despite all these complexities, it is still regarded as one of the landmark laws, a monumental law. Why do you think that it is a landmark law, and do you think, Vedji, that there is any room for improvement in this particular law?
So, Hemant, this is a very important issue which you have raised. Why it is an income tax is considered to be a landmark law. See, every government, every society need money to run it efficiently, provide security, provide you facilities every day, you need it. And it need money. And who can pay? A country like in India, we have such big population of more than 130 crores. Who will pay? Now, there are peoples who are much below the poverty line.
Yes.
There are people who are much above the rich line.
Yes.
So, this is a large variation.
Yeah.
Income tax act is an only income tax, is only act, or this is the tax, which makes a distinction between these two classes. Because your liability to pay tax is progressive. As you earn more, you need to pay more, which we call a progressive system of taxation. It depends on your ability.
Observation.
It depends on your ability to pay, your capacity to pay, availability of money, and keeping in mind the money which you are earning from a country is you are able to earn because you are getting so much facilities. You are getting the benefit of the infrastructure. You are getting the benefit of the society of which you are a part, and a part of that society is deprived of those various amenities and facilities which should have been otherwise provided. Yes. And that's why, as you rightly said, over a period, the growth has happened more and more. Out of the 27 lakh odd crore rupees total revenue collection, today more than 14 lakh crore comes from the income tax, which I believe that roughly 55 to 60% of my total revenue is coming from this. And that is why now India is able to take care and provide to those facilities, social obligations, health, education to those who are deprived of because of the money coming out of this. And this is the ability to pay which has been given. And why this growth is happening? As India's GDP is growing, more and more people are earning more, they are able to contribute more. And that's why I'm reasonably sure about it. Down the line, this collection on direct taxes is going to be much more than what we are expecting. And that is what I'm looking at. And that's why I say it is a very unique law, which makes a distinction between the people who can pay and who cannot pay. As against other law, what we call a GST and excise duty, etc., everybody has to contribute. Even if I have an ability to pay or not, everybody has to contribute. There's a other significance why that should be levied, because that country need money. So that's why collection has to be there. But I believe income tax is a perfect law, and that's why it is world over the same phenomena which is being followed. That's important. And as regard your second question, that's also very important. What we can do, improve upon and improvements. I believe today income tax has by and large stabilized, good provision, but scope of improvement is always there. If I look from the tax administration perspective, they have done wonderful job using technology, using the new modern system, but whether it is a computerization, etc. And my experience says today, Indian income tax computerization and the use of technology is far ahead than the best of the advanced country, developed nation.
Right.
Even if we go to Europe and US, we do not have this system. Transition is little painful, which we are going through it, as we talked about the what we call faceless assessment, etc. But I am reasonably sure down the line, 2-3 years, it will get stabilized. At the second aspect where reform is, the tax administration desire to widen the tax base. Today we have roughly 6 crore odd plus taxpayer in a population of 135 crore odd. But there need to be a good increase. I will not say substantial increase because the other numbers also do not say. But I am reasonably, the way computerization and digitization and is going on, technology being viewed, so the number will grow as we have seen in GST. The enforcement mechanism and computerization, the number have jumped, and direct taxes numbers are bound to jump. Now, coming to the point of the taxpayers, what reforms can we do? That's an important aspect because I must have talked about on that issue. See, the issue what I feel is how to narrow the gap of a trust deficit between the tax administration and taxpayer.
Right.
There is different because taxpayer want to minimize the tax liability, as you refer to Einstein. Or Nani Palkevla, everybody says every taxpayer will like that his liability should be minimized. Tax administration will like to widen the tax base, rightly so. There too. And there is a trust deficit between the two, how to bridge this gap. We cannot eliminate altogether. Right. And for that purpose, I am of the view that a few small things, because litigation happen, because there is somewhere lack of clarity or interpretation issue. If some guidance can be provided by the tax administration years after year, every year coming with a master circular, look, this is our interpretation, giving practical example, etc. Wherever litigation has arisen in the preceding year, the next year the absolutely clear some guidance is given, so that can settle the issue,
right.
Remove the control. And second is responsibility.
Yes.
As we say, as a taxpayer, my obligation is I should file the return very correctly, very precisely, whatever it is. The taxpayer expect the tax administration should compute my assessment or do assessment precisely. And in case there is as the responsibility is on me, what we call a penalty in case something happened wrong, some sort of a similar mechanism should be there. I will not say accountability, some responsibility that what has happened is correct or not. Fast, that's the idea which reforms can be done.
Yeah, very well said. Well, it is time to take viewers' question. We have a question from law student Aditya Gargoti. Let's listen in.
Cryptocurrency is not legally recognized in India, but then how and on what basis is it taxed?
Would you like to take this?
Yes. Very, very good question. But let me explain it. That Income Tax Act taxes the income. It does not see the legality or illegality of the source of that income. जैसे कल को मतलब हम लोग किसी आदमी के पास 1 करोड़ रुपए पाए जो कि अकाउंटेड नहीं है और वो कहे ये तो मैंने रिश्वत से कमाया है, तो क्या हम उसको टैक्स नहीं करेंगे?
हाँ जी।
कि जैसे आप इनकम अगर हमने गैम्बलिंग इनकम टैक्स कर दी या हमने स्मगलिंग इनकम टैक्स कर दी, तो हम ये थोड़ी कह रहे हैं कि ये स्मगलिंग लेजिटिमाइज हो गई या ये करप्शन लेजिटिमाइज हो गया. जो भी उसका प्रिवेंशन ऑफ करप्शन एक्ट में जो भी एक्शन होगा या स्मगलिंग एक्ट में जो भी एक्शन होगा वो अलग चलेगा. हमारा वी हैव ओनली टैक्स द इनकम टैक्स करने में हम सोर्स नहीं देखते हैं, लेकिन जो एक्सपेंडिचर अलाउ करना है उसमें एक प्रोविजन है इनकम टैक्स एक्ट में कि इफ एनी एक्सपेंडिचर इज प्रोहिबिटेड बाय लॉ देन दैट इज नॉट अलाउड एज डिडक्शन.
ठीक है.
सो देयर वी लुक एट द सोर्स कि why this expenditure was made and whether this expenditure was allowed under the law or not. But when we tax the income, it is not something that it is that we are giving it a color of legality.
I see.
And one more thing, this is coming in the mind of a lot of our fellow citizens, that we have started taxing crypto from 1st April 2022. That is not correct. Crypto was already taxable.
Achha.
Even if this new provision was not there, crypto was taxable. If it is your capital gain, it was taxable under capital gain. If it is your business income, it was taxable under business income. And how we tax capital gain is different to how we tax business income.
तो अभी ये digital asset कहलाता है या कि cryptocurrency?
Virtual digital asset. We call it virtual digital asset. And we have given a special provision that it will be taxed at 30%. no expenditure will be allowed except cost of acquisition, no loss will be allowed.
Acha.
So we have formed a special provision for its taxation, and now it does not matter whether it is your business income or capital gain.
Theek. I think that adequately answers Aditya's question. Well, nearly 2000 years ago, there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. This applies today as well. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for joining in and enlightening us on this very important, significant, and landmark law, the Income Tax Act 1961. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, that's all we have in this edition of the program. You can send your feedback at Sansad TV at sansad.nic.in. You can also connect with us on various other social media platforms. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, good luck, and namaskar.